I stand on the marble steps of Agnes Scott College, Decatur, and I feel the cold stone against my shoes, a reminder that even the ground here is polished to hide the rot beneath. I arrived with a suitcase full of expectations and a bank account that whispered you are worthy. The tour guide smiled like a painted portrait, promising a sanctuary of learning, yet each promise is a thin veil that soon tears. The first whisper of trouble comes from the classrooms. I sit in a lecture hall where the professor drifts through slides like a ghost, the voice flat, the eyes glazed. When the professor does not care, the grade drops like a stone into a pond, rippling into a permanent sea or lower. This is bad because a grade is not just a number, it is the key that opens future doors. When the key is rusted, the door stays shut and the student feels hopeless. I raise my hand and the response is a sigh, a shrug, a dismissal. The advisor, who should be a lighthouse, instead points me toward a career I never chose. She says medicine is too hard and nudges me toward something else. This is a betrayal of trust. An advisor's role is to guide, not to redirect dreams. When a student's dream is redirected, confidence crumbles and the future becomes a fog. Financial aid arrives as a vague email that smells of indifference. I call the office and the voice on the line tells me to reconsider my options or drop out. The words reconsider and drop out are knives that cut into my sense of security. Financial aid should be a safety net, not a threat. When the net is missing, the student dangles over a pit of debt, and the weight of unpaid tuition becomes a mental chain that binds the soul. The cafeteria, though bright, serves food that tastes like cardboard soaked in stale grease. The soup is lukewarm, the smell of old onions hangs in the air, the texture of the vegetables is mushy, and the plate looks like a sad splash of brown. Eating such meals makes the stomach rebel and the mind foggy. A poor meal steals energy, lowers morale, and makes the campus feel hostile rather than nurturing. Dorm rooms are closets masquerading as living spaces. The walls are paper thin, the windows too small to let in sunlight, the bed is a twin that squeaks with every turn. The space feels like a cage, not a home. When a student cannot relax in their own room, they cannot study, they cannot sleep, and anxiety grows like weeds in a garden left untended. Career services sit in an empty office with a sign that reads helpful. In reality, the staff are few, the appointments rare, and the advice generic. The result is a graduate who steps into the world with a degree but no connections, a resume that shines but no bridge to a job. This lack of support turns hope into despair because without a bridge, the river of opportunity remains uncrossable. The campus administration talks loudly about social justice, yet the discussions become echo chambers where only certain voices echo back. The pressure to agree with every statement makes dissent feel unsafe. When students cannot speak freely, the environment becomes a prison of thought, and learning, which should be about questioning, turns into rote affirmation. Outside the gates, the community watch as the school plans to turn a wildlife preserve and a dog park into a softball field. The locals scream, "This is ours," but the college moves forward with bulldozers ready. This seizure shows a disregard for neighbors, a belief that the institution's wishes outweigh the community's rights. It breeds resentment and isolates the college from the town it claims to belong to. The mental health center is understaffed, the waiting line long, the counselor's chair empty. When a student reaches out for help, they encounter silence. This is a crisis because mental health is a foundation of academic success. When that foundation cracks, the entire structure collapses into anxiety and depression. All these failures share a common root, a leadership that cares.
More for image than for people. The glossy brochure hides empty promises. The polished hallways echo with the sounds of indifference. Each broken promise is a stone that adds weight to the heart, and heart weight makes every step feel like walking through mud. I write this as a warning, a plea to those who think a name alone can shield a flawed institution. If you have money, perhaps you can buy a better experience, but if you lack wealth, the college becomes a trap that steals your future. Do you see the pattern? Do you agree that a place promising care, yet delivering neglect, is a betrayal? Leave a comment if you think this story mirrors other hollow promises you have faced, 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 have faced.
I've been looking into crimes near Agnes Scott College in Decatur, and I keep wondering why so many little scams pop up right where students and tourists walk. Businesses around the campus are usually small cafes, boutique shops, and the occasional chain, and they seem to be easy targets for fast tricks. First, there was that string of smash and grab burglaries in downtown Decatur last June. The thieves broke the glass of places like a burger joint and an Italian restaurant, only staying a minute inside each before running. They walked away with registers that barely had any cash, but the damage was real. I imagine the owners spent the next night calling the police, filing insurance, and trying to fix the broken windows, while their regular customers, maybe a visitor from Agnes Scott on a short break, felt the loss of a safe, cozy spot. The thieves probably got caught after the police linked the footprints and the broken glass, so they might be behind bars now, but the shops still have to rebuild. Then there was the quick change scam that hit local stores in 2023. One person acted as a lookout while another confused cashiers with strange change requests, walking out with more money than they gave. A tourist who stopped to buy a souvenir could have been the victim, later realizing her cash was short. She likely went back to the register, asked for an explanation, and left feeling annoyed and a bit embarrassed. The scammers were probably identified by surveillance and faced small court charges, but the memory of being short-changed stays with the buyer. A bigger, older story is the food stamp fraud at a convenience store a few years ago. The owner swapped EBT cards for cash, which broke the trust in local shops. A visitor who tried to use a friend's card might have been turned away, feeling uneasy about any cash transaction in the area. The owner got a prison sentence, but the lingering doubt could make tourists double-check every checkout line near campus. There was also a fraud ring that stole from Home Depot and other stores using fake checks. A short-term visitor buying a tool for a weekend project could have handed over a check that later bounced, leaving them without the item and a warning on their bank record. They probably returned to the store to demand a refund, only to be told the sale was void. The ring members were likely sentenced to federal time, but the store now checks every ID more closely, making the checkout line slower for everyone. Finally, a man was arrested for a Macy's storefront fraud. He pretended to be a customer service agent, got refunds or merchandise, and walked away. A tourist who stopped by the mall after a day at Agnes Scott might have seen a line of confused shoppers. If they were the ones scammed, they probably filed a complaint and felt the sting of losing money they planned to spend on souvenirs. The fraudster is probably serving time, while the store now has stricter verification, leaving visitors to wait longer for honest service.
I am going to talk about how the businesses near Agnes Scott College in Decatur tend to behave, and why travelers should keep their expectations low. First, the whole commercial scene feels like it is stuck in a time warp. The mall area, for example, smells of neglect and emptiness. Stores look tired, the air feels hot and stuffy, and the few remaining tenants seem to survive only because a Department of Motor Vehicles office keeps the doors open. The gallery at South DeKalb exemplifies this mood. Shoppers notice broken air conditioning, confusing directions to restaurants, and a dwindling collection of shops that once buzzed with life. A former patron even described the place as a ghost town where only jewelry stalls remain, while the few remaining food spots serve bland, over-salted meals that feel like they belong in a school cafeteria. Beauty salons share a similar story of disappointment. The notion that a haircut can be a relaxing experience quickly fades when stylists cut far more than requested, especially on curly hair that needs special handling. At Aviary Beauty and Wellness, clients report hair being snipped off in large chunks, highlights that start far from the roots and look jagged, and appointments that are cancelled at the last minute without any apology. One visitor even said the salon charged for a service that never happened, leaving the customer feeling robbed. The pattern is clear: promises of expertise turn into rushed work and unexpected fees. Dining options do not escape this trend. Restaurants around the college often charge high prices for meals that taste like reheated leftovers. Café Alsace, for instance, has been called expensive and mediocre, with dishes that are overly salty or bland, and occasional incidents of dirty glassware and foreign objects in the food. A dinner that should have been special turns into a lesson in how to politely decline a bill that does not reflect the quality served. Similarly, the Iberian Pig tries to sell Spanish flair, but ends up delivering soggy paella,
overly salty tapas, and a cocktail that tastes like diluted water. Guests have even fallen ill after a meal, hinting at deeper kitchen hygiene problems. Even sweet treats suffer. The ice cream shop Butter and Cream, once a neighborhood favorite, now feels like a DMV visit more than a dessert stop. Customers describe rude staff, inconsistent scoop sizes, and even moldy jars of hot fudge. Some patrons have found hair in their pints, while others notice a stark price jump for a product that no longer tastes like anything special. The experience is more about surviving the attitude of the server than enjoying a scoop. Live music venues are not spared. Eddie's Attic, once a beloved stage for emerging artists, now appears cramped, poorly maintained, and poorly managed. Attendees have reported moldy bathrooms, broken chairs, and a chaotic ticket system that forces some fans to stand for hours while others sit comfortably. The staff often seem indifferent, and security is so lax that patrons can cause disturbances